I ask people to do a kind of audit of their body, of how they're holding themselves. And it's funny when I'm giving a talk and speaking to a big group of people, and I say, now check your posture, I can hear everyone immediately moving in their chairs, even if the lights are low. But I say, no, don't move yet. Check your posture, because what you think that when you're not the one performing, your body language doesn't matter, because we think of body language as just one direction, what we're saying to others, but our body language is always speaking to us as well. So I ask them to to pay attention to what is their default seated position. Are they holding their shoulders up and forward, collapsing their chests? Are they wrapping their hands or arms around their torso? Your limbs are pulled in, your shoulders are pulled forward, your chest is collapsed. Legs might be crossed and ankles wrapped. I think the wrapping of the ankles matters more than the crossing of the legs.
Need motivation?
Watch Top 10 with Believe Nation.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I make these videos because I need them, because I want to wake up every single day and get pushed by somebody who's doing a lot more than me. And in watching their videos, it inspires me to be bolder, to have more courage, and to go chase down the life of my dreams. And I hope it does the same for you. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Dr. Amy Cuddy, and my take on her top 10 rules of success. Enjoy.
You watch sports and watch what's happening. What is the winning team doing versus the losing team? You really see it. I mean, you see, these big basketball players who are holding their heads in their hands and, leaning forward, and they look absolutely defeated. Even though they're just as physically strong as they were 5 minutes earlier when things were going well. So watching the body language of athletes, for example, and then paying attention to what you're doing yourself, I think helps us to become much more aware of how we're carrying ourselves. But you can do little things, like just when you get up in the morning, if you wake up all curled up in the fetal position, which is the most common sleeping position. 40% of people sleep in the fetal position. And we know that when people wake up in the fetal position, they are more anxious than people who don't. That is obviously correlational. We don't know the causal direction, because it might be that you're anxious and that's why you're sleeping in the fetal position. Nonetheless, say you wake up in the fetal position, stretch out, into a starfish pose, be Usain Bolt in bed before you put your feet on the ground. One of my research assistants said that he would hold one of his hands on his hip while he brushed his teeth. Like little things that sort of forced him to spend a little bit of time expanding really helped. And I hear so many stories like this. People rearrange their desks so that they have to stretch out a bit more when they're working instead of, working like this over their phone. How are you sitting in your car? Are you, really close to the steering wheel and kind of collapsed, or more open? Little things like that can really change the way you feel. So I think it starts with just noticing how we carry ourselves, physically, how we speak, how we breathe.
Rule number 2 is develop personal power.
What is personal power, and how do we start to build it?
I think, it is the feeling that you are entitled to bring your best self to challenging situations. But that also involves knowing who your best self is. And that's difficult too. But I think often we don't even feel that we sort of deserve to be there. And so we can't fully show up. So personal power is the feeling of sort of being in control of our internal resources, to bring our skills and abilities forward, to be the most sort of generous, open-minded version of ourselves. That's personal power. Personal power is not a substitute for skills and knowledge. And I think that sometimes people mishear me when I talk about this topic and think that I'm saying you can just fake it. You can't. For me, personal power is about revealing the skills that you already have. But it also gives you more bandwidth to build more skills, right? So it's self-reinforcing as well.
Rule number 3 is start journaling.
for people who maybe are feeling stuck in this very difficult moment, how do you go and develop agency? What are the things you need to put around you to have the agency? You know, I feel very agentic as well right now, but there have been times in my life when I haven't. And are there tips that you can give to people where
sure.
they feel that, okay, here's my gift, let me give it to the world right now?
Well, first of all, let me just say, I feel like I go back and forth between feeling agentic and non-agentic many times over the course of a day right now. So I mean, you know, an hour ago, I was like, what am I going to do about this thing, talking to somebody? So don't get me wrong. I don't feel agentic all the time, but I am very aware of my need to feel and express that. So here's the thing. I'm going to call it personal power again. So agency, personal power, your ability to get stuff done. Think of it this way. So you face these big challenges, and you know, the way that you approach them and execute them and leave them is a reflection of how agentic or present or powerful you feel. So if you approach them with a sense of dread, so you're basically borrowing trouble from the future. Like, you've decided that it's already going to go badly. And then you execute them with anxiety and distraction, and you leave them with this feeling like, I didn't show them who I am. Mm-hmm. That's the worst feeling. Like, even, so say it's a job interview and you end up not getting the job. It's much easier to accept not getting the job when you at least feel that you showed up.
You showed up. Right.
Exactly. When you're like, well, you know what? I showed them who I am. It's obviously not a fit. I can move on. So that feeling of regret versus satisfaction is really telling you if you are feeling powerful and agentic in that situation. Now, the way that people get to this feeling of personal power really is about, I mean, there's so many ways that we can do it. Here's there are what we would call kind of top-down approaches. So they're more cognitively engaging. So you could, for example, one way is to write about a time when you felt a strong sense of agency and personal power, not necessarily power over others, when you felt strong and agentic. Write about that time, write about what was going on and how did it feel. That alone primes your sense of personal power. That will make you feel more personally powerful. I like the more bottom-up kind of primitive approaches because we're not great at self-talk. So I don't know if you remember the Saturday Night Live sketch, Stuart Smalley. He used to say, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it.
Oh, yeah, right. I'm smart enough, I'm good enough.
Yes, so daily affirmations of Stuart Smalley, who was Al Franken, actually.
Right.
But the whole idea was that self-talk doesn't work very well, because here's the problem. If you feel bad about yourself, if you're feeling powerless, but you're like, I'm powerful, now you just feel like you're powerless and a liar, right? Like, you don't trust yourself, right? So self-talk is not the best way to get there. That's
so if I write down something, I'm writing down like a time when I felt strong or a value.
You really have to engage with it. You can't just like say, oh yeah, on that day I felt that way. You have to explore it. Like you've got to kind of journal about it, write about the time, and really write through what was it about it that made me feel powerful in that moment.
Rule number 4 is reframe anxiety as excitement.
This was research done by a woman named Alison Wood Brooks, who's at Harvard Business School. She's a professor. And she was like a wedding singer before she went to grad school.
Okay.
And she just didn't get nervous. And she was really interested in stage fright. Like, she was like, I know it's kind of funny. She's like, this isn't hard for me. Why is it hard for you? No, but she's very confident. But she was really interested in stage fright. And she realized
and learning why people have stage fright.
Right. And she's a very positive person. And I think that what happened, and I don't want to tell her story for her, but my understanding is basically that she realized that for her, the nerves, so basically emotions have 2 dimensions: arousal level, like it's a high arousal or a low arousal,
and the fear,
right? Exactly.
Yeah.
And positive, negative. I mean, there's more than that, but like, think of it, those are the 2 dimensions, and emotions can be clustered around those. So she realized that she was having the same high arousal feeling in her body before she sang, but for her, she interpreted it as excitement, not fear, anxiety. And so she realized that it's not that she really was having a totally different experience. It's just that she was like, I must be excited to do this.
It's the interpretation.
Exactly. So she did experiments. She had people do singing contests using like, what was the video game? Rockstar? Was it Rockstar? What was
Might have been Rockstar, yeah.
She had them do like debate competitions. I think they did a math test, maybe different studies. But she assigned them to say to themselves before they did the thing, I am anxious or I am excited. And the people who said I am excited just said I am excited to myself. They did much better.
Yes.
So she calls that reinterpreting anxiety as excitement. So reframe it. Like, so before you go on, her name is Allison Wood Brooks, hyphenated.
Okay.
And yeah, so anxiety is, reframe anxiety as excitement. And this is definitely one of my favorites. And I think that helps a lot of people.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there.
Rule number 5 is open up to yourself.
I feel strongly that encouraging people to open up, even if it's when they're alone, because sometimes people close up in social situations because they have, complex PTSD. They have experienced trauma and they've been assaulted, they've been harassed, and they feel that they're protecting themselves. So I think you start at home alone. You start in the privacy of your own home where you don't feel threatened. And then maybe you build it into these more social situations. So instead of worrying about the impression you're making on others, you think about the impression you're making on yourself first. That's what matters. How we tell our stories to ourselves matters. We own our narratives. And there's research even on looking at older people and physical health outcomes, mortality. And the researchers found that older people who had more positive personal narratives about how they got to where they are in life lived significantly longer than people who had these negative narratives. Even if they had the same job, the same kind of on the surface, they looked the same. They controlled for all of those differences and still found that the older people with these more positive personal narratives lived longer. Again, that's correlational, but it's powerful.
Rule number 6 is take up more space.
People forget we are so we divide the mind and the body in this bizarre artificial way that makes no sense to me, given that the brain is literally situated inside the body and runs the body, right? So I don't know how we got to this mind-body divide, but we did. Now, the mind is obviously telling the body what to do, but people forget that the body is also telling the mind what to do. So the way that we carry ourselves changes the way we see the world. Now, when we feel powerful, we expand. This across the animal kingdom, in every culture in which it's been studied. For example, right, when people win first place, what do? Yes, repose everywhere. Jessica Tracy, a researcher at the University of British Columbia, she studied this in 36 cultures, including places where she hiked in, interacted with people who'd never interacted with an outsider, and still, when they won, they did this. Right. When we feel powerful, we take up more space. We breathe more deeply. We speak more slowly. In every way, we take up more space. So, that's where this whole idea came from, that, well, what if you turn that around? Because when we feel powerless, what do? We start to we do what we call pacifying behaviors. We touch our faces and our necks. Something bad happens, we go like this. We go like this to cool down our, all kinds of touching, wrapping, making ourselves small, invisible. We don't want to offend the people in charge. We want to be invisible so that we don't get picked off by a predator. All of these things are nervous system responses that are great if you're being chased by a tiger. But the thing is, most of the time, we're not being chased by tigers. I recognize
let's go to your book.
Tiger King. Okay, most of the time, we're not being chased by tigers. We are just feeling socially anxious, right? So that fight, flee, or faint response is not helping us. What you need to do is override that. And it's hard to talk yourself out of it, but you can walk yourself out of it. You can change the way you carry yourself. That is called embodied cognition. And so if you expand, when you start to feel powerless, like honestly, pay attention to yourself. Like right now, everyone watching,
I know, let's all sit up, you guys. Take some space.
Are you slouching? Yeah. Are your shoulders forward? Is your chest collapsed? Are you breathing shallowly? Are you wrapping yourself up? Are you twisting your ankles, twisty legs, I call that? Or are you spreading out and feeling, open? Pay attention to the times when you start to collapse and immediately change that behavior. Open up. Look, the nice thing about being home, not in front of a lot of other people, is that you can do crazy things. Like you can stand like Wonder Woman.
It's so true.
You can do the warrior pose whenever you feel like it. You're not going to offend anybody. Take up space. It changes the way you feel. A study just came out yesterday. I got the Science Daily News. A study with fourth graders in Germany where they had them power pose and found that it dramatically increased their self-esteem in general, but also their self-esteem around school, their mood, and their interactions and relationships with their teachers, right? They felt a greater sense of agency at school.
Rule number 7 is build trust.
What's the most important thing that we haven't talked about that maybe we should have?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked a lot about trust, but I guess, so I guess I just want to summarize sort of all of that talk about trust. Just that, a lot of people in the business world make the mistake of thinking that they got to go in and be the smartest person in the room. So they've got to show competence. And they do that at the expense of demonstrating their trustworthiness. And if you do not earn trust, build trust, you have no medium through which your ideas can travel. So trust is the conduit of influence. It's not a soft idea, it's a true idea. This is just the way people are. If you come in and you start talking at them and you haven't listened to them, you don't know what they're about, they don't feel like you care, it doesn't matter if you have the best idea in the world, you're throwing it against a brick wall. You have got to earn and establish trust in order to influence people.
And how do you establish trust?
Not thinking that you have to take the floor first. So a lot of people feel that, especially in business settings, like a negotiation, they feel like they've got to drop the anchor, they have to talk first. When in reality, it's often much more effective to ask questions and learn about the other person. You're showing first that you're interested, that you understand them, and you're actually gaining information, right? So that when you respond, you're not giving up power at all. You're building trust and learning, and then when you respond, they trust that your response is based on you actually knowing them, right? So they feel seen. They've been seen. So that's, I think, there are so many things, but that's one that I think is really effective.
Rule number 8 is learn to adapt.
How we deal with a pandemic like this and how you see someone like you being really resourceful and putting up this very positive thing for people to be part of.
I mean, it's unprecedented for most of us, right? I mean, to go through something so dramatic, like such an abrupt societal change is not something that most of us have lived through. So, I can tell you what my experience has been, that we adapt very quickly. And I find that both reassuring and scary, right? That we can adapt to such an abrupt change so quickly is, it's a good coping mechanism. That's how we survive. And at the same time, I don't want us to adapt so quickly that we don't notice bad things happening. So I think that's been really an interesting dynamic that I've been talking to a lot of authors about. And was thinking last week that it's okay if you feel like you're adapting pretty well. It's funny how many people feel guilty that they're adapting.
Mm-hmm.
If you're adapting pretty well, keep at it. Like, do your thing, get it done, but set aside time to think about the people we're losing and the people who are really struggling. So I think that's how I'm trying to do this. Is when I'm on a roll, when I'm getting writing done and things are going well, it's in everyone's best interest, at least in my family, for me to keep doing that, and in my broader community. But I also don't want to lose track of the people who are struggling.
Rule number 9 is become a better speaker.
I like to focus on what you do before you go into a stressful presentation. Of course, inevitably, people are going to ask, what do you do during the presentation? If you have that moment where your heart starts racing, your mouth is going dry, your face is getting red, you know, probably from your own experience, how quickly that goes into a kind of death spiral. So I want to tell you that you actually have the control to pull yourself out of that. And what you need to do is pause and collect your thoughts. That's okay. It does not come across as painfully awkward to other people. They actually see it as a sign of confidence. The second one, slow your breathing. Make sure it's deep. Trigger that relaxation response. This is about your nervous system speaking to your brain and telling you that you're in a safe situation. Another thing that people do when they get nervous speaking is they start to collapse. They start to touch their arms and touch their faces and their necks, and they don't move around, and they get what we call penguin arms, where they pin their upper arms to their bodies because they're afraid. They don't know what to do with their arms. Stop yourself from doing that, and here's how you can do it. Hold something. Have a slide advancer. Hold it away from your body. Carry a water bottle. Or if you're standing at a podium, put your arms on the podium. Do things that force you to hold your arms and your hands away from your body. That will help you to feel more confident and powerful, and it will also signal to other people that you feel powerful and confident. The key is don't let the primitive fight or flight part of your brain take over. You are not going to be very good at telling yourself to calm down. We're very, very bad at doing that, but your body can calm you down. So if you say calm down to yourself when you're anxious, you go, oh my gosh, I'm really, really anxious. So you get a kind of rebound anxiety. If you change your body language, you're walking yourself down away from that ledge. And that really calms down your nervous system and allows you to regain your composure.
And rule number 10, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is keep trying.
Imagine many years away, it's your last day on this earth. You've lived as long as you want to live, and you accomplish all the dreams, and you have the life you want. But for whatever reason, everything you've ever created, your written word, this video, content, has to go somewhere else. It's not on this earth anymore.
Okay.
So it goes when you go.
All right.
Hypothetical. And the only thing you get to leave behind are 3 truths, 3 lessons that you've learned that you would share with the world. What would you say would be those 3 truths for you?
The whole haters gonna hate philosophy, like the idea that people are there are just bad people and people are just gonna be bad. Don't buy into that. It's like, just keep trying. That the only thing that makes that absolutely true is if we believe it's absolutely true. So keep trying to be a better person, to model better behavior, to be optimistic about people, to have grace.
Yes.
I think that's the most important one.
Okay.
We just leave room for people to be weird. Like, you know what? Let people let their freak flags fly.
Yeah.
Like, don't put people in a box. Let people be different. Like, appreciate it. Just stop judging. Like, do your thing. Let your freak flag fly, and let other people do the same thing. Like, if they're not hurting other people, I like give people space to be themselves.
Absolutely.
That's it.
I appreciate so much what you are doing to help us all understand the sociology and the biology behind being more powerful. Could you talk to us a little about your research in that area?
When kids hit middle school, you start to see this change in body language where boys don't really change their body language much. And girls start to really collapse. They start to make themselves small. They cover themselves up. They sometimes pull their sleeves down over their hands. They want to be tiny. That's really troubling to me, because if expansiveness helps us feel more powerful and makes us more open to sharing our ideas, and we see our daughters starting to contract, that obviously is setting them on the wrong path. We find that kids learn those stereotypes very early. So by age 4, they're aware of the stereotype that expansiveness is linked to masculinity and not femininity. We need to change what we're showing them. We need to teach our daughters to expand, to take up space, to share their ideas, to show their strength, and to do so without apology.
Our little girls are called bossy.
Yes, I know. When you just tell them to speak up in class, that's scary and difficult for them to do, and because they're aware of those stereotypes as well. I tell people now all the time, do not ever tell your daughter to sit like a lady. It's the worst thing that you can tell your daughter. Let them throw their arms up in the air.
I love that.
Be playful.
That's marvelous.
I mean, no one should be man-spreading, but, it's okay for us to take up a bit of space.
We won't call them bossy. We'll call them developing leadership skills
That's
at an early
exactly
age. I also am fascinated by your work with the imposter theory.
Right, the idea is that many people in their work lives, sometimes in their personal lives, have moments where they feel like, I'm a fraud and I'm going to be found out. And so what they do is they don't engage because they're afraid that anything they do is an opportunity for them to be found out, to be busted. In the 70s, when they first started studying it, they thought it was a women's issue. It didn't take long for them to figure out that it wasn't that women felt it more often, they were just more open about sharing their experiences. So when they started doing surveys that allowed for more anonymity, they found that women and men equally have these imposter fears. And between 75 and 85% of people experience this. And that, of course, stems from feeling that you are less deserving and less competent than everyone else around you. We look around and everyone else seems competent and confident. But we're not seeing their struggles. We're just seeing the sort of finished product that's being presented to the world. They look at us and probably think we're just fine too. Just knowing that everyone experiences that I've found alone makes people feel a little bit better. I mean, even hugely successful people have imposter fears when they start something new.
It's also part of let's fake it until we make it.
That's right.
Would you talk to us a little bit about presence? Because some people believe it's something you present, an artificiality almost.
Right, not at all. Real presence is being able to bring your true self, your true values and knowledge and experiences to a stressful situation. So to be able to know who you are, to access that self, and to feel that you can comfortably present that self. We stop managing the impression that we're making on others, and we start managing the impression that we're making on ourselves. So it frees us to be who we really are. I just think it's so important for us to see power as something that's not zero-sum. Power is infinite, personal power. So if you feel powerful, you don't need to sort of make sure the people around you feel less powerful. You want the people who work with you and for you to feel powerful, because that will mean that they're bringing their best to their jobs, to their relationships. It creates value for everyone. People act out in very destructive ways when they feel powerless. When they feel threatened and angry and powerless, not when they feel powerful and comfortable and at peace. So I think we need to make peace with power and be able to share it with the people around us.
Because you made it this far in a video, I want to celebrate you. Most people start and don't finish. Most people never actually follow through. Most people say they want something, but they don't ever do the work to actually get it. But you are different. You are special. Believe Nation, you made it here all the way to the end, and I love you. So as a special celebration, if you put a hashtag Believe down in the comments below on this video, I will showcase you and celebrate you somewhere on the screen in a future video, because you are awesome.
For 10 more amazing rules from Dr. Tara Swart-Bieber, check the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
So it's basically about 3 processes that happen in the brain, and they are selective filtering, selective attention, and value tagging. Basically, we're bombarded with so much information.